Today, I'm going to be diagnosing and hopefully fixing this knee activated speed control for a Kenmore sewing machine. The model this came from was 120-491, which was inside a 566. Just before you open this or do anything, this video is only for entertainment purposes. If you're not a Kenmore repair person, then you shouldn't undertake this. There's 120 volts. This controls 120 volts, which can injure or kill you. So don't take this lightly. And then for those who have one of these, and if you're a professional, I want to let you know how it came off the machine. So I don't have the machine. It's in a different town, but I'll try to demonstrate. This knee pedal was sitting facing this way. If the person is sitting here to the left, they control this with their right knee by pushing against it. I had a heck of a time trying to figure out how to get this off of the front skirt of the console that the sewing machine was attached to. As it turns out, there's a bracket against the front wall that has two little pieces that go in here and one piece that go in here. And what you do is if you pry this one up a little bit, it's just like a spring, it'll loosen and allow that box to come off. This is a cabinet and machine that my sister-in-law got and was working fine, but seemed to have a voltage leak somewhere as it either tripped the breaker or the ground fault. I had replaced a cord that it had. The original cord was right here and it had all sorts of issues. You can see electrical tape here, there, and everywhere. So I figured there was a voltage issue there. But even with the replaced cord that I used that was well connected, I didn't have any tools when I was doing this. It still was, you know, when I plugged this in, even with it unplugged from the sewing machine, would give a little bit of a spark right here, indicating to me that there's still some voltage leak inside this box. It's interesting. This box uses a series of springs to give different levels of resistance when you push on it with your knee, going from high resistance to low resistance. That's just some other parts. So you can see when you push here, it increases that lever from basically the more resistant springs to the least resistant springs. It's interesting, it doesn't go all the way up to that top one, but it touches it. Anyway, what I don't know, it doesn't seem to have any contact here. And overall, these are quite distant from one another. So I don't think there was any loss of electric from the replacement wire I put in. So now I'm going to use my multi-tester to see if I can find out why that is. In reading about it, it sounds like some of these sometimes get some metal flakes or dust that ends up connecting a circuit in a way that it's not supposed to after a lot of use. So anyway, I'll probably be taking this apart, cleaning it up, and hopefully chasing down and fixing that electrical leak. So first things first, let me grab my multi-tester. What I've done is I've connected my probes and bolted them on to the two terminals here. So now I can actually pay attention to what's coming up on the ohm meter. All's looking right, except there's a terminal in the middle that I think needs some cleaning. So you'll see there's no continuity whatsoever, open line, I believe OL means. And when I start moving my knee connector, I start getting a high level of resistance. That's showing 177 ohms. And then the resistance is going down as I heat each one of these new connectors. 143, 109, and then this is where a little weirdness happens. It drops, but it's making a noise, so I think there's not a perfect connection there, or it's showing that it's right on the edge of where that thing is going to squeak, make its tone noise that there's continuity. Then when I go up another, it'll signal 36 ohms, and then I'll get close to 0 ohms at the bottom, 0.3, 0.2, 0. So I was reacting to that before in the video. That's actually correct. It's a full connection with very little resistance at the top, so the sewing machine should be going at full tilt. So I'm going to clean up that third one, and maybe I don't know if that sound that it's making is because the sound that's making right here is because it's right on the edge of where the machine should be making noise, or if there's something strange going on with the connection. So I'll clean that up. I'll double check to make sure I don't have any path between hot and neutral while it's not connected to the machine. And if I don't, then on the terminals we'll go with some solder here, and we'll put it back together, and I think it will be all ready. And just to note, there are some new pedals that you can buy that have more electronics, more solid state electronics than these spring resistors here that have the same type of connector. That probably is preferable to this because I know these can heat up in use. But my sister-in-law was eager to have it back to its original state. So I wanted to look this over and get it up and running, and then she can make a call if she wants to use this or wants to use a replacement foot pedal, or either or both. It's pretty easy to switch back and forth because this just plugs right into the bottom of the sewing machine. I'm just going to chalk that up to the way my multi-tester behaves when it's in between a state that it feels is continuity and a state that it feels is not. If I go to ohms without the noise, make sure it's stable when it's there. And it's quite stable. So I think that's just the behavior of the signal one. So okay, I don't think there was anything wrong. I think it was just something that I did when I hooked up the temporary wire with the limited tools that I had during my visit. There's a bit of junk in there. So now I'm just going to retest any continuity between the hot and the neutral without any sewing machine attached. Loosely tighten those down. See nothing on the multimeter there. Nothing on the multimeter there. So I think that was just me. There must have been some little spider wire or something. It's such a huge distance, I have trouble believing it was, but anyway, it all is looking well here. I'm not seeing anything that would cause a slight spark when it gets plugged in, so let me just actually check the wires themselves, maybe. Yeah, no, it must have been something the way it was connected up. We'll do it better with better tools here, and should have this thing back up and operational. So what I'm going to use are these two terminal ends. I'll actually put some solder on the wires just to remove any chance of strays. That's a little bit belt and suspenders. But then the soldered wire will go in there, and then those crimp down on the solder. And then those will be what makes the connection here for the neutral, and here for the hot wire coming in. And so I will do that in a moment. I've now soldered up the ends of these two cables. I've got a little heat shrink tubing on there that I'll put on to clean up the connection to the terminals. And I just need to see how much wire I need. It's not much, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'll clip off what's not needed. Set them over here. Slide this on. And then use the crimping portion of my tool. Not all of these have it, but some do, which is the right way. I think it's right like that. Okay, that's on there nice and solid. I'll put this other one on in the same orientation. Okay, both of those are on there nice and solid. Now I will slide that over. This is just sort of belt and suspenders stuff. Boy, don't even know if I'll need the heat shrink, but I'll do it anyway just to make sure it's connected. My soldering iron's still a little hot, so I'll just put it up against there. See it get nice and cozy against the terminal connector. Okay. To finish this job up, I'm going to use the strain relief connector that came off the old wire and the grommet. I hope I can get this over the terminal connectors. That may have been a mistake. Oh, good, I can. Just. So there's that. I marked one hot here, red, just for my own identification. It's the one without the without the little ridges, and I visually checked it. I'll just check it with my continuity tester here. The wide one is the neutral, and I'll just make sure it goes to this one that's not red. Yeah, that's correct. So what I'm going to do is have the hot will go here, so it's going to be sending power down. The neutral goes here and then just goes back out to the sewing machine. This end goes to the sewing machine, and the wire coming in goes there. It's the hot that will be regulated by this. So you always want to break the hot rather than sending the current off to the machine. All right, so let's tackle this next step here. I've got let's go with that. This little clip that went onto the wire to help with the strain relief on the inside. You can see the matching part there. So I'm just going to crimp this down on the wire and then put the grommet and the other strain relief in there. Hot is there. Neutral will be here. The crimp will go about right here. I'm gonna pause and fiddle with this off screen with a pair of pliers. All right, that did take a little bit of fiddling. This is fairly close to those. I forgot to put the grommet on first. I had to take it back off, put the clip back on, but now I think I have this spacing just about right. Despite this being a gigantic box for what it does, there's not a lot of room at the cord entrance. So I have that there. Get the two nuts on. Oops. So that is all ready to be reassembled. I will do a few tests here before I put the cover on. So just back to continuity. So testing between the hot or the neutral and the hot, I have nothing, which is great. Now I'm going to test the hot alone to get it to stay in there on its own with my little Q-tip. Don't plug this in preventer. I cannot. So I'll just hold that there. And then I want to see what's coming out at the sewing machine. This is labeled black, red, and white. I'm just going to guess that it's the red. I don't think I can get in there. All right, I'll use this. Once again, in need of another hand. All right, let's take our Q-tip preventer out. Use the handy dandy hole. And then here, so right now I don't have anything, but as I increase this, those numbers change. They're a little slow to react, but all is well there. And again, no continuity between hot and neutral, so if you plug this in, it would not give any spark. So I think we're back in full business here. Now that I did it with my tools, I will put the cover back on. The side with the two half holes here. Make sure those line up well with the grommets. This box is very very cozy on all four sides. So it's actually just that the side of the box was holding it open, nothing else. Push down. Boy, it's very, very fiddly. If I get it on square, it's easy to get it on. There we go. Okay. Grommets are both set. The screws line up. Now I can put those back in. Okay. And finally, to reinstall this, it's going to pop back into the front panel. There's a clip with two arms here and one here up under the skirt of the sewing machine console. So you put those in, pop that one in. This will go down into the plug. It did appear to go through a strain relief port in kind of an underpiece before, but because I was reassembling it set from the machine, it's going to be just important to have that held somewhere that it's not putting strain on this connection. And then finally, this goes up and plugs into the sewing machine. It was held up under the skirt of the cabinet right at the upper corner with a couple pieces of what are essentially duct tape. And those are removed here, but they can be put back in just so this cord isn't hanging down below the machine. And with that, the sewing machine should work and shouldn't trip breakers or GFCIs anymore. Thanks.